everyone. What is an AWS EC2 Instance Type? When you create an EC2 instance in AWS console, you get an option to choose what is an instance type. So instance type basically tells you what type of the architecture your virtual machine has, and what is the compute and memory and network configurations. All this can be configured by choosing the right instance type with the correct required instance size. So it has seen the terms like t3.micro, m5.xlarge, r5.8xlarge. So in this you can see that there is something called a letter T, and there is a number which is usually a generation number, like you have your third generation of your chip, fourth generation of chip, Intel 7th generation, 8th generation. So that number is signified by this 3. And micro is an instance size, like micro, the name suggests it's like a very small instance type, like very less CPU and memory. So that's what EC2 instance type is about, but we'll dig bit deeper. So we'll talk about the instance series. Again, we'll take the example as m5.xlarge instance. So here the M signify it's a general purpose instance, and there are other instance series like T, it's a burstable instance. So when we say burstable instance, it is suitable usually for your dev and non-prod instances where you have occasional spikes, so you will get credits for using less CPU, and when you need more CPU, the CPU is allocated to you. So morely for like a practice purposes, when you create an instance, this instance type is suitable one. Whereas there is M instance series, which is a general purpose. It's a production grade instance. So if your in application doesn't have any specialized requirement like your compute optimized or memory optimized, you can always go with an M type instance. So your application servers, web servers can use M type instance. And then there is this C type, which is compute optimized. This is for more when you need more compute performance optimized for compute. And if there is an R type, it is more memory optimized. And then there is something called high performance computing for your scientific calculations like a weather forecast. In those scenarios you need a very high performance computing, so for that you choose this instance type. So these are some of the use cases. Like I said, so T series is a burstable instance. It's usually used for dev and test instances, and M is for production or app servers. C is for compute intensive operations like your media transcoding, batch processing. And R type instance, let's say you have a DB instance hosted on EC2. You have RDS, but still for some reason if you go with an EC2 instance, then probably an R type instance is a much suitable fit. And also for any in-memory cache, you go with the R type instance. And HPC, like I said, it's used for like your scientific simulation when it is more high performance demanding system workloads, you go with the HPC. So there are other instance series as well, but this is a very good place to start. So AWS have a very good documentation around every topic. The same is the case with instant type. So once you have this basic idea, you as a solution architect, you can go to the documentation and have better understanding and suggest suitable workloads to the particular application requirement. Let's dig deeper with the M type instance. So if you see the instance type, let's say M5 or M6 or M7, right? Like I said, the number signifies what type of generation it is. So usually M7 is the latest generation, but there is something called I here. So the I naming convention was not there before, but now we have this I naming convention. It basically means that particular instance type uses an Intel Xeon Platinum processor. So this processor is used in this type of instance, and it is an x86 architecture. So this I denotes that. And then you have this M7A, M6A, and so the A denotes here AMD EPYC processor. Again, it is based on x86 architecture. And then you have Amazon's own type of processor. They have this AWS Graviton processor. So the G in the instance type in made G denotes an AWS Graviton processor. It is an ARM-based architecture. So you, as a solution architect, you can decide which type of instance type you can choose based on the application. In general, so the AMD processor and Graviton processor are cost effective compared to the Intel processor. So if the application supports that, you can always recommend that instance type as a priority. And instance size, I think it is, you understand that very well by now. You have this like, let's say the instance type is C5 at large. So C here, it denotes it's a compute optimized. 5 is the generation of that particular processor. This is Intel in this case. And you have this 2 CPU and 4 GB memory for this instance type. If you can see, right, as the instance size increase from large to XL to XL, the number of vCPUs is a virtualized CPU that you get from your hypervisor, your virtualization environment. This is the CPU that you get for your application workloads. And what is the memory? So the same way for general purpose, what is the CPU and memory for each instance types? M5 at large, it is 2 8. If you can see, for memory optimized, the memory would be slightly higher too. If you choose an R5 at large compared to M5 at large, if you see the memory is 16 GB. So based on the instance type, you have this network bandwidth as well. So you can take a look at the 10 GB is more optimal for most of the workloads. Can note, and also you have this EBS bandwidth for your IO operations. It is again in the order of MBBS. So the key thing to note here is the vCPU and the memory for each instance size. So combining here the instance series or the family, whether it is C type or M type, with the instance size like XL, large, 4x large, you decide the right instance type, right sizing for the right requirement. So it is key, the right sizing is important. You do not give for a normal workload, you go with the C5.9x large 72 memory. It's obviously very costly if you go with large instances. So unless it is really a requirement, you don't go with such higher instance sizes. So now, with all this information, we could now understand how instance type will look like. So if we can see the M5AD.x large, this is one of the type of instance. So M here, it means an optimization type, which is a memory optimization. The 5 is a generation. It's slightly older generation compared to M6, 7, 8. And A is the, it denotes the, it's an AMD processor. And then there is another, sometimes there is another option that comes in here, which is usually some additional options or features. So D in this case means, apart from your ABS volume that you get with your host that you can attach, you get by default NVMe SSD hard disk that is attached to the instance. So if you require that, you can choose that type of instance. And XL large is an instance size. So with this information, you will be able to navigate through most of the AWS documentation around instance type and have a better position in deciding what's the right instance that you might want to select. So that concludes the video, but we'll have one additional info before we wrap it up, which is something called AWS Nitro system. You will come across this term whenever you go through the AWS documentation. So it is a combination of hardware and your hypervisor that AWS owns from their end. So they built it for more suitable and performance optimized and security better performance for the AWS infrastructure. So you can see it's a mix of hypervisor, Nitro cards, network storage, SSD, and security. So most of the instance type you will see would be part of the AWS Nitro system. Whenever you see an instance type with AWS 2, so that's what it means. They have their own hardware and hypervisor with that. So that's it for this video. Thank you. If you have any queries, just leave it in the comments. Thank you.